and welcome to our Unlocking SEL live launch party for our school leaders tonight. I hope everyone is having a good evening or day, depending on where you are joining us from. If you guys could share in the comments where you're joining us from. I am joining from Indianapolis. Lana, where are you joining us from?
Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay, I want everyone else to share in the comments where you're joining us from tonight, because the more comments you have, there's a good chance you're going to be more of an entry into the giveaway we have at the end. Tonight, we're going to be giving away a signed copy of the new book, Unlocking SEL. And then Lana is also going to be giving away a free 1-hour coaching session with her. So please stay on to the end. Comment in the chat. The more comments I see, it might shoot you up a little bit to the top and my prize winners. So I just want to thank everyone for joining us. If you guys can also share in the comments, what do you do in education? Do you teach? Are you a school leader? If you are a school leader, what type of school leader are you? We have, let's see here, we got someone joining us from San Diego, California. Wonder what kind of weather they're having right now. How's your weather right now, Lana?
Pretty good here. Yes.
Pretty good. Okay,
nice
good.
Here. Fall is in the air. Yes.
Fall is in the air. We've also got someone joining us from, looks like, North Carolina.
Oh, Henderson. Yes. Not too far from Charlotte.
Not too far. There we go. We got Henderson, and it looks like she is a kindergartner teacher. Okay. I'm going to, here we go. We've got someone joining us from Malaysia. Awesome.
Right,
I love when I see our international followers join us tonight. So please share in the comments, especially if you're joining us internationally. Okay, so I went over the giveaways a little bit. So tonight we are going to be talking about the new book. We're going to be talking about SEL, of course, but we're going to be talking about SEL specifically when it comes to school leaders. Okay, so Lana, I want you to kind of, I know there was one more thing I wanted to talk about before I turn it over to you. One thing we are really trying to do, she is killing it on her Amazon reviews. We have already got, what was it last time?
33, yes.
We already 33. Have 33 reviews, and I'm going to get it in the chat, of her book in the first week it was released. So if you guys have been able to check out the book, we would really, really appreciate it if you went on there, shared an honest review. Honest reviews on Amazon are one of the best ways you can help an author, the best ways this work can get out and seen by more people. So I wanted to thank you guys all for joining us tonight, and I'm going to turn it over to you to get started tonight.
All right. Thank you, Elena. Hello, everyone.
I'll be back at the end for giveaway.
You will be back. Hello.
I'll be back.
Welcome, everyone, to Unlocking SEL launch party for leaders. I'm Lana Penley, coming to you from Charlotte, North Carolina. I am a former principal of more than a decade, current SEL advocate, partner, daughter, sister, friend, and I always have to say, avid pickleball player. Any other pickleball players out there? Let me hear from it in the chat. We are live here across many platforms. Thank you for showing up, school leaders. I know you have so much going on, running around and trying to make time for this. Hopefully you got your snacks and you're comfy, because we're going to talk all things SEL. And this focus is mainly for school leaders. So as Elena said, I just want to thank you. And I also want to say thank you to the publisher, TeacherGoals, that has patiently held my hand through this 2-year journey with bringing this book to market. And as she said, the best thing you can do, if you haven't ordered the book, we put the chat in the link. Order the book now. It's doing really well. #1 new release in educational management and also educational psychology. So I'm so grateful, and mainly because I want to get the message out in education in schools about how we create healthier and happier schools for students and staff. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And for a limited time, we are offering a free workbook. So if you buy the book on Amazon and you go to our site, and Rachel, hopefully one of you can put that in the chat, you put your order number in there and you get a 75-page workbook. I like to say this is a meaty workbook with a lot of good stuff and exercises that you can do as you work through the Unlocking SEL. Well, tonight we have three special guests, a regional director, a psychologist, and a current principal. Sounds like the beginning of a joke, doesn't it? Sorry, I cracked myself up. But we're all going to talk about the book and SEL. We're going to have giveaways and an exciting toast at the end where my dog is going to make an appearance, as is Elena's, and maybe yours if you have your dog with you too. So let's get started, and we'll bring in our first guest, my friend Mary Melvin, Regional Director at LAUSD. Mary.
Thank you so much, Lana. Thank you for including me to this exciting event. I'm so excited to see the fruition of years of work that you've spent on this topic. So thank you for including me.
Oh, you are welcome, Mary. If you would just take a moment, tell us what it is that you do at LAUSD, and then I'll let you take it from there.
Absolutely. I'd be delighted to. As you mentioned, my title, I'm a regional director. So I support and supervise the principals within the Valley section, the northern section of the Los Angeles Unified School District. We're second largest in the United States. So we're a really big district. So there's quite a few directors, but our work is to support our principals. And I've had the pleasure of working with you, Lana, when I asked you to come on board and help me with my principals when we very first returned from the pandemic. And we were navigating the challenges of being back in person and all that entailed. And I was so fortunate to have you come on out and support my principals, both in person and virtually, but really connect with them and help them take care of themselves, because this was a time that, wow, we'd lost sight of that. So I was so excited to hear that you've brought all your experience to this amazing new book. I'd love to know what inspired you, though. What inspired you to set the book up in the format that you did? Do you mind sharing with everybody?
Sure. Well, first I wanted to say, Mary, it was amazing to get your call as a regional director and say, Lana, I want to help my principals and support their well-being. Yeah. So yeah, we did a Mindful Leaders Network. And so kudos to you. I know that is not something that happens very often, sadly, around the country. Mm-hmm. And so I know your principals appreciated you doing that. So
thank you.
All right, inspiration for the book. So some of you might know this story, but some of you probably don't. That inspiration was actually a direct result of a school crisis. So I was a principal actually at that time in Portland, Oregon, long way away from North Carolina, but I was there my second year on the job as a principal. So basically didn't know what I was doing. We probably have all been there. And then we had the school crisis of a fire. So in 2009, our school literally burned down. Everyone escaped, but to say we were impacted is an understatement. And so we had to kind of, from being like totally, we lost everything. How do we come back together as a community? How do we heal? How do we move forward? And so what that allowed us to do was to put like a laser-like focus on community through social and emotional learning. And that's what we did. And we used it as a way to rebuild and to heal. And it was amazing. And I didn't really know how it was going to play out, but we had pretty amazing results, from an increase in positive student outcomes and a decrease in teacher burnout. Mm-hmm. And the truth was, Mary, we didn't know how to do it, really. There was no guidebook. There was no this is how you implement SEL school-wide. There's a lot of student curriculums, but how do you do it? So we made some mistakes. Some things we did right, some we did wrong. But over time, we really crafted a way forward. And I was realizing I was going out and showing some other schools how to do this. And I realized, you know what, it was that moment in my life that I realized I want to serve a larger group of folks and help schools figure out how to do this in a larger way. And so that's when I really began the journey of creating my consulting company and the journey of getting this book written. So that's kind of how it started.
That makes so much sense. That I can absolutely see that, especially in your role as a principal. You can support your families and your students and staff, but not much beyond that. And so what a wonderful gift that you're able to support so many more, myself and my principals included, with this work. So I understand how the book came to fruition and the extension of your work. Talk to me a little bit about why you structured the book in the way that you did.
Well, just raise your hand if you've ever read an educational book that put you to sleep. Anybody?
Oh, good heavens. Yes, ma'am. That's
yes. And Or how about this one? All theory and no practice. Like, this is great, but what do we do with it? And so hitting those two things were really important to me. I wanted it to be engaging. And though I wanted it to have theory in there, of course, I wanted it to be practical. So using all of that really came up with this idea of creating a blueprint, an SEL blueprint, an
Mm.
actionable guide. And so it is based around these 5 principles called keys. So here's the 5 big buckets of work for social emotional learning, from building the foundation, centering adult SEL, then coming into the classroom, scaling school-wide, and designing a cycle of success. So there's 5 big components. Each one of those have chapters. And here's what I really like. Each chapter begins with a real life story that really grounds the work. And okay, this is how it looks in real life in a school. And then finishes with teacher tips and principal points so we can help all educators with it.
That makes so much sense. That's why it was so enjoyable to read. Now I understand. I spoke with another principal friend who said she felt like reading the book was having a conversation with you, and how
Oh, great.
reassuring it was that, yeah, that it definitely felt
And
that
there's
way.
some funny parts in there too. There's some jokes in there. I hope readers are able to get.
I'm curious, Lana, right now, I'm sure it's similar for some of our educator friends that are watching, but it feels like education right now is focused on tests and exams and
Mhm.
data. The lift is pretty heavy. So why have you found now the time to share your book?
Yeah, I mean the time definitely is now. The challenge facing student and educators are really unprecedented. We have, the mental health crisis among young folks, from anxiety, depression, and increasing prevalence of stress. But it's not just that, it's our educators too who are experiencing extreme overwhelm and burnout. I mean, I don't know if you've seen that, but that's what I'm seeing across the country. Yeah.
You hit the nail on the head. I don't know if the other educators on the call are seeing this too, but we're having trouble finding principals.
Right.
Folks are, not wanting to stick with this profession. It's
Hmm.
exhausting. It's a lot. And so hiring them and keeping them, maintaining them is or maintaining those positions is really tough. Do
Absolutely.
you think that your teaching and your work, if a district adopted something like that, do you think that would have an impact on retaining principals?
Well, I know it did for me. So when I began my own work of learning about mindfulness and learning about stress reduction, I began to kind of show up differently, have some
Mhm.
boundaries around my work, do some other things, just be a little bit, have more grace towards myself and to other adults. It really decreased my burnout. So I like lived that myself. Like, I'm an overachiever. How about you, Mary? I mean, that's kind of what we're trained to do, right? Find a problem, we got to solve it.
Right. It's so true. Well,
Yeah.
you're reminding me. One of my schools, a larger elementary, lower socioeconomic school, they've got some real struggles with things that their families go through, and they've sustained your program. I actually visited their classrooms today and was struck by the impact that the SEL adult work you have been doing is
Mm.
showing up in the classrooms. I was struck by the mindful corners and just the reminders for the adults themselves. It
Hmm.
was really, I see evidence of your work definitely at play. So it's not only as you mentioned, a book that they would read, but they're living it. They're really utilizing it in their school.
Yeah, and that second, you mentioned the adult SEL piece, that's the whole second key of the book. Remember, the 5 keys
Oh
is
yeah.
about the adults. And too often, SEL has left behind the adults. And it just infers like, oh, everything's fine with our educators if they only did this, when we know that's not the truth. And so what I call it is really co-centering, and we can do that in education. We can hold it both, and we can treat our educators in a different way. And so by really focusing on adult SEL, here's some specific strategies that we can do ourselves, but then also I call it some questions out about how do we collectively and systemically care for our educators different. So the onus of care is not just on the individual, but
Mhm.
also the collective society.
Lana, that makes so much sense because one of the things I noticed in the room was an upper grade classroom, and there were 4 or 5 of them, and it was wonderful. But I also noticed the language that the teachers used was more purposeful. Sometimes as teachers, we get frustrated and there's a tendency to be sarcastic or kind of joke, but it was all growth mindset language. You could tell these were happy teachers, and it really, you helped shift the way the adults approached even challenging situations with the students.
And we're really talking about, for tonight's training, let's talk about principles in general. Like, so me, as a principal, I call myself a recovering overachiever. How does balance show up, and how could it have impacted me if I wouldn't have waited so long in my career to really practice some of these things? So I know many of my principal friends, they are online 24/7. They have their work email on their personal phone. They've really given up a lot of their personal lives. It's just all consuming. And that is nothing but a road to burnout.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think you've given principals the permission to focus on SEL. And that's the difference that they're seeing, but it's a difference for them. When you remind them that we can't do a good job if we're exhausted, we can't uphold our people. If I'm frustrated and I've got a student who's, not listening, and he's now been sent to me as the principal, and I'm at my wit's end, you're right. That conversation's not going to go very well.
No, it's not. And you mentioned you can't find good teachers. Last I checked, a principal is staying in their current role about 3 years.
Wow.
So that's it.
Wow.
So we have got to put more resources to supporting the well-being of our leaders of our schools. We have to move upstream, not start with the students. We have to move upstream of how do we care for the adults in different ways.
Makes sense. Before my time is done, I have to ask you, do you mind sharing just a little nugget of information, with the readers who perhaps haven't had the opportunity to hear you present or haven't read the book yet?
Okay, yes, I'll give one of my takeaways. And this story, I know you've heard this story, Mary, so hopefully you remember. It's called Put the Glass Down. Have you heard of this one?
Yes, ma'am.
Imagine you're holding this glass of water, folks, okay? And if you hold it for a minute, it's no problem, right? I can do that. But if you hold it for an hour, what's going to happen? Your arm's going to start to ache. You hold it all day, your arm may go numb from the strain. Though the weight of the glass hasn't changed, the longer you hold it, the heavier it feels. Yeah. So, and after a while, what's going to happen? You can't help it but to drop the glass. This same thing goes for the stress and responsibility of being a principal. If we hold it all the time and we never get away from it and we are plugged in, we will not be able to stay in this job and do a great job very long. So here's my one nugget is put the glass down. When you're home from work, set a time. For me, it was 7:00. When I was done with work, I was done with work. I put the glass down. I did not check my emails after that because it was never, great job today, Miss Penley. That's not the emails we get usually. There's a problem we've got to solve. Now, it did mean I would get up a little earlier in the next morning and check my email, but just knowing I wasn't going to check it again at night helped me really get into having a more enjoyable night.
Well, and it helps you be a better you. I love that advice. It's definitely something that when I very first started doing it, I thought, okay, the world might end. I'm really good for disasters. And I have to tell you, it's helped on my end. It's helped me support my principals by letting them know I'm not going to be texting you all Saturday. It's your break. So just put the glass down and enjoy at least your weekend. We're so busy. So, thank you for that. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mary. And any closing words you might have for us about the importance of the book or SEL in general?
I just have to say I've noticed the difference. We've got certain principals that have really embraced. In fact, the one that I mentioned earlier when I was visiting her as I left, she's like, look what I bought. And she had a whole set of books for her leadership team. So they're going to do a book.
Oh, wow.
They're awesome. So excited. But I've genuinely noticed a shift in the conversations with the leaders. So it's not, I have one principal who really was challenged with the leadership team. Sometimes your leadership team can be an opinionated group and, they're wonderful, strong leaders, but not always easy. And he was able to shift from your practices and going through the activities that you helped him with of being more mindful in his approach to things. So even approaching challenging meetings has been easier. They start the meeting with a mindful minute and it de-escalates the whole situation. So I really want to thank you for working with my principals. It's made a huge difference. It's noticeable on campus when I go on campus. I know the schools that have had the Mindful Leaders Network workshops and those that I will be calling you because they might need them. So
Make good
thank you
benefit.
again.
Thank you, Mary, and thank you for your leadership, and thank you for caring for principals' well-being.
Oh,
Thank you for
absolutely.
actually. Okay, bye, friend.
Thank
Talk
you.
soon. All right, everyone. I hope you enjoy that. Put in the chat any thoughts you might have about that. Why I take a drink of water. All right. So we have a question while we're getting ready to bring on our next guest. How to integrate SEL in universities level. Actually, that is happening here in the States. There's quite a few colleges that I know are having a freshman course on social and emotional learning, managing stress, on mindfulness, on how to flourish. I do know that that's happening across the way. I've also done several trainings myself, working with universities. What I'd like to see is definitely in the teacher prep programs that we are supporting teachers, incoming teachers, and incoming leaders in the leader prep programs, that we are helping them think about stress and how they can manage their stress before they even start in a job. So I didn't start learning, I was in education 25 years. I didn't start learning this until after the fire, right? Because of a crisis. But I don't want other folks to have to wait for that. But could you imagine of in my prep program if I would have begun to learn about stress and the impact that it has on our bodies? And here's some strategies that you can do with it. So that would be my thoughts to that. All right, let's bring on our next guest. Shar, come on, join in. Hi, friend. Welcome, welcome. Shar is someone I've been fortunate enough to work with in the world in mindfulness and social and emotional learning. So I'm going to ask her just to introduce herself to you and tell you folks a little bit about what she does. Let's see, you're muted, Shar.
Got it. Thank you.
You're good.
Yeah, you'd think by now I would have figured that out. But anyway, I'll be humble about it. Yeah, I do that all the time. So, hi, everybody. And hi, Lana. So glad to be here. So, a little bit about myself is actually, I was the executive director of social emotional learning in a consortium of school districts in 1999. And I know that seems really bizarre, but in Minnesota, we've always embraced social emotional learning. We had a position at the Department of Education
Wow.
dedicated to social emotional learning. And so I had this position that nobody in the United States probably had at that time, which was kind of incredible. It was an incredible opportunity because we had the gift of being able to bring the concepts of SEL to a number of school districts. And one of the ways that we went about it is that we asked people who we thought would have concerns about it to voice their concerns before we started. So we asked people, what would be the worst outcome of us pursuing socially emotional learning in this district? And once we gave people an opportunity to talk and share their concerns, we got a lot of people on board who I don't think would have been on board otherwise. So that's kind of how we went about it.
You've been doing this for a
So
while. I'm excited to hear your expertise in
Well,
this and what your thoughts are about the
kind of
book.
an. I'm sorry, I'm an ancient SEL person, but
No,
I
you're
have been
not.
doing this a long time. But well, what I'm excited about is that did you did what needed to be done, and I call Lana's work the connective tissue of
Mm,
social emotional learning. And what I mean by that is that there were a lot of questions about, so how does this all tie together, and how do we do this when we're supposed to be teaching history or language arts? And it's not something to replace all that. It's just how to
mm.
do it within the parameters of our educational world. So I love that. And so I just think you nailed it, Lana. And, one of my favorite parts of the book is when you talk about the soft opening being, kind and welcoming and warm and invitational at the beginning of the school day. What if we could all start our days like
Mhm.
that? And,
Mhm.
especially children. So just having a heart and being open to young people in the educational environment it's revolutionary in that nobody has really tied all this together before. It's
Well,
about
thank you.
attuning to students. It's
Thank
about
you.
like, I see you, I hear you, all
Yeah.
those things that are so important. So I have some questions for you, Lana.
All
So
right. All
what were
right.
the uh, all right. So what were the main components of school-wide SEL implementation in your professional experience?
Well, when I think about school-wide, that is one of the keys of the book, scaling school-wide. How do we do that? Why is it important? And I think a lot of schools that I've worked with, and Shar, I don't know if you saw this too, but SEL was really about one off. Maybe it's like this classroom or just a couple of different classrooms and there, or this component and this component. There wasn't really a school-wide unified supportive plan for how we're going to implement social and emotional learning. How do we create places where students and staff can thrive emotionally, socially, and academically, where SEL is really embedded in every aspect of the school, from leadership to classroom practices, promoting, as you said, this culture of empathy and respect and emotional well-being. So when you think about it, school wide, I'm really talking about there's a leadership commitment, like the school leaders, your admin and your leadership team and your site council are prioritizing SEL and policies, actions, resources, and modeling that. So we have that leadership commitment. And then we have consistent classroom practices. So the teachers are integrating SEL into their daily instruction. And I will say in the classroom strategy component, I really give 8 specific strategies that people can implement into their classroom. So we have those consistent practices, and then we're creating the supportive school environment where all of this can thrive. It's like planting a seed, but how can it bloom? We have to have all the conditions around it. So I'm talking about that leadership commitment, the classroom practices, and the supportive school environment when I talk about really implementing it school wide.
I love that. And I love the word embedded because I think that is the key that this work needs to be embedded. It can't be a separate, standalone, side door kind of endeavor. It needs to
Hmm.
be embedded in the work we do in schools. And what you just said reminds me that when we rolled SEL out in the school district, that's exactly what we did. We worked with the academic teachers and said, here's how you teach a kind, attuned, mindful language arts class. And here are
Hmm.
some examples of how a piece of literature, for instance, can illustrate a concept about SEL. For instance, conflict resolution, and just like bringing that language in all the
Hmm.
subject matter. So I love the word embedded. It really is what characterizes SEL. So I'm curious because you've been doing this a while, Lana, as have I. What changes did you see as a school once you implemented SEL?
Well, it was interesting. We really began to see some pretty significant shifts in students and adults. I would say our students became more emotionally aware, better at regulating their feelings, better at expressing their feelings, more capable of resolving conflicts, more self agency, like, hey, I can do this. And all of this led to fewer behavior issues and an increase in academics. And I will highlight that we did see an increase in academics because I know some of our principal friends are worried if I begin to put some energy there, are my scores going to slip? Because that's what we get held to. That is not what I experienced or have seen experience because we're increasing the regulation, increasing the focus, and reducing the behavior conflicts that are occurring. Now, at the same time, we were also seeing the benefit of our adults because remember, we were doing a parallel path, right? We've got the students working, but we're also supporting our adults in stress management. So then we were having reduced stress and improved emotional management, stronger relationships, more community with our adults. So all of that worked together to really shift the conditions of the school as a whole. I say it was more like, Shar, we were creating like this ecosystem of care for everyone. And kind of the core question we ask is, how do we want to be in community with each other? So when situations occur, rather than us just reacting, we could pause and we could respond, because we, at the core was, how do we want to handle this? How do people who care about each other, who feel a sense of connection, how do we want to handle when bumps in the road occurs? So I would just say it was a softer, kinder, better version of ourselves and of our students and the school as a whole.
Lovely. And I also know you well enough to know that you are practical and that you pay attention to the whole spectrum of what happens with SEL. And I'm curious about what your take is as a response to this question. What do people get wrong about SEL?
Okay. Can I give two answers?
Of
Let me
course.
distill it down to two answers. My first answer will be, a common misconception is that SEL is a specific curriculum. Like, have you heard that, Shar? And
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
like
Yes.
this is SEL. Our SEL is this curriculum.
Hmm.
No, like it's teaching a set of lessons and checking off boxes. But the reality is, a student curriculum is important. We do need explicit SEL lessons. But even much more is all that goes around SEL implementation. So thinking of it more as an umbrella that holds all the other work. So it isn't just the scripted lessons. We do need these explicit lessons, like I said, but it's all the other stuff around it. So we need to broaden our what we understand of SEL to more than just a student curriculum. And then
I wholeheartedly agree.
second in that is that in some bizarre way, SEL has become a little bit politicized. What is that word, Shar?
Politicized.
Thank you. I don't know. You ever try to get a word and you can't quite get that word?
Oh, once in a while.
Yeah, once in a while. Here's what I think about that. SEL is about being kind, being connected, feeling feeling a sense of community. And can't we all get behind that regardless of anything else? And so that's what I say, keep that as like the main thing that we're talking about here. We're not trying to do any kind of ideology. We're just trying to create schools where students and staff can thrive. So that would be the two things I have to say about the misconceptions about SEL.
Hear, hear. And then just focusing on the third key about student SEL. So, what are some key takeaways in that section of the book?
Well, okay, so that third key where we're talking about, remember the second key I was talking with Mary was about adults, then this third key, bringing it into the classroom. So that's where I get into the specific big 8 strategies. So that's what I call it, the big 8 of SEL strategies. Remember, I wanted this book to be practical. You have this book, here's some things that you can literally do. So in that, I talk about the importance of prioritizing relationships, modeling mindfulness, tending to space. What does the environment of the classroom look like and feel like? Begin with a soft start, which you mentioned earlier. How do we start with a sense of community building to get our brains and our bodies in the right place to even learn? And then do a daily mindful moment. So the intentional breathing to calm our nervous systems down. And then using a trauma-informed lens, how we approach students and our understanding of trauma and its impact, ensuring our responses are compassionate and supportive, teaching explicit SEL lessons, and creating a peace corner. So those are the 8 big strategies. Now, they're not all the SEL strategies there are, but they are 8 high leverage strategies that I have seen make significant differences in classrooms.
Yes, and as have I. Just maybe to wrap up my comments here, the reason that I see student SEL as so important is that our mission as educators is not to teach subjects. We teach human beings, and these
Mhm.
are young human beings who need our guidance and support and instruction, and not punishment, but guidance and teaching. And that's the way that young people learn. And that's what SEL is all about. And I think that we've missed the boat for years in education by not having a focus on SEL. And I will say that I have witnessed students say, is it SEL moment? Is it a mindful moment right now? Or could we ring the chime? Could we have a circle? All of the things that are the language of community, we hear from young people after they've experienced SEL, and it just becomes an automatic go-to for them. It's a safe place. That's
Yes.
why I love SEL, and I'm so grateful that you wrote this book.
Thank you, Shar. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us tonight. Thank you for expertise. And I want to say thank you for your early work that you did with SCL. I mean, it is really important and pretty amazing of how you were leading that work. So great job. Thank you, friend.
Well, thank you, friend. Great to see
Okay,
you.
talk soon. Bye-bye. All right. Any thoughts or comments about that while I get a drink of water? Oh, great question. So how do we bring families into the loop? Well, that's the next book. No, I get that question. And actually, I do some work with families, and I do think that that's a really important thing. So after we got this going really well in our school, both with our students and with our staff, we definitely tried to push out as like concentric circles. How do we bring the families in? And we definitely did that by tying them into the strategies that we use in the classroom, sharing with them, and then teaching them how to do some of these strategies at home. So we taught mindful breathing so the families could use this. We also talked about instituting a peace corner. We had several of our families that were using that at home. They're like, this works amazing. So I think the more that we can be transparent and show what we are doing and bringing families in, the better. They need our help too. All right. Next, and our final guest, principal extraordinaire, I'd like to bring up Nicole. Nicole,
Hey
yay!
there.
Hey,
So good to see
Nicole.
you. Thank you for having me.
Good to see you too, Nicole. Nicole and I have been working together for a couple years and
Mhm.
are friends in the Pacific Northwest. So if
We
you could
are.
just tell a little bit about yourself, where you are, and what your job is.
Yeah, so I'm actually a Midwest transplant from Wisconsin. So you just had Shar from Minnesota, and I'm from Wisconsin, but I now live in the Pacific Northwest in Vancouver, Washington. And Lana and I first met when I had been a principal for just a bit in Portland Public Schools. And I participated in the Mindful Leaders Network in Portland Public as a principal, and then transferred over to Vancouver, where I'm starting my third year as a principal in Vancouver, Washington, much closer to home. The traffic out here is ridiculous. You need SEL just to drive in traffic. But yeah, you've been working with our school, coaching us along the way for the past 2 years now. And I'm so excited to share with other principals out in the world here about the impact your work is having on our kids.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I look forward to hearing from you. And I know we need a principal's voice here is what we're talking about with leaders. So Nicole's a principal, and I felt this too in my more than a decade doing this. You have so many competing initiatives for you to do, and it can become so challenging to even decide what it is that I focus on, because
Mhm.
you have to bring all of these different things together, and then how you decide on SCL being your through line. I'd like to hear from you about how did you decide that, and then how has that decision impacted your school?
Yeah, so when I first came into the school I'm in Vancouver, I was the third principal in 3 years, and it was also post-pandemic. So our school had been through quite a bit in the years leading up to when I entered there, and the adults were pretty dysregulated. Students were dysregulated. There were not very many systems in place, and things were just not very clear. And so one of the first things that we needed to do is just really clean up the school, declutter the school, make it look inviting and warm and easy visible, like lots of points of visibility, and just sort of organize ourselves so that we could address all of the needs in the building. And our goal is always like, make sure every single person gets everything they need when they need it. And when you started working with us, we started working at the systems level and kind of putting into place some of these bigger picture, structures for our school. Some of the things that we did right from the beginning was we implemented peace corners. We made time for social emotional lessons to occur during the day. We made sure all the teachers had all the lessons they needed to use, all of that. And we also started to work on understanding escalation cycles for students and figuring out how do we strategically support kids through escalation cycles, and then with reentry back into a classroom if maybe they've had a big behavior. And then supporting the students around them to be warm and welcoming and supportive as a classroom community as well. So there was some layers that we put into place with the students. And also there had been a tragedy that happened on our campus prior to my arrival on the campus. And the adults, in listening sessions that I had done with the adults, they told us a lot, like, we really need someone who can be with us, to help us to get our needs and to support us. And one of the things that we implemented was what we call the lighthouse. So it's an adult regulation space for when adults are having big feelings or just feeling like they just need a moment to breathe. And we have a whole plan for how they can step away from the classroom, and we can support in the classroom with a certificated teacher who can step in. But that's been also a game changer, I think, for our staff.
So it sounds like you have this parallel path also. So you're working on creating these conditions where students can be successful, but you're also talking about the second key too, right? The adult piece. And so implementing that space for the adults, that de-escalation space, but I bet it's also a connection space and a community space, and how you just take a breath space. Just creating that for teachers must have felt pretty affirming for them. But so let's talk about that. What have you noticed? I know you've done a lot of work and you really have thought about the impact on the adults. What have you noticed about the adults since you've been working on Educator SEL?
Yeah, we have data to support this, but I would say that from year one to now, in the first few months that I was working in the building, our radio calls for behavior support in classrooms to remove kids, to do something with these students, right? Just that walkie was just buzzing. It would not stop. We couldn't put enough adults on walkies to support the needs in the building. And now I would say a year and a half to 2 years in, I can get through an entire meeting with my leadership team during the day, and we have, maybe there'll be a radio call, but by and large, we can get through our daily work. We can do strategic planning. We don't have to work outside of the student attendance hours to get work done that needs to get done during the day.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you've just calmed everything down, right? So I think that whole idea of schools feeling so dysregulated is really important, and we don't talk about this as enough. And you were able to come in and say, whoa, this school is pretty dysregulated. How do we, and yeah, you had a crisis also at your school before you got there, and I had a crisis. But what I've seen, Nicole, around the country is the majority of schools are dysregulated. That's just what you see. Like the pandemic, perhaps it's that, perhaps it's divisiveness, perhaps it's all the things that are going on with social media, but they've created this little melting pots of dysregulation. So I think that's really important. So as far as the student SEL piece, let's pivot that way a little if we could. We've implemented, we've done some work together, as you said, at your school. We've talked about explicit SEL lessons. We've talked about Peace Corner, modeling mindfulness, mindful moments, breathing exercises.
Mhm.
Maybe pick one of those that you've seen have been impactful. And do you have any quick little stories that can kind of bring it alive?
Yeah, my favorite is our peace corner and also the mindful breathing. I have one student that I was supporting through an escalation cycle. We have a whole de-escalation space, so I was working with a student individually in a space, and he kind of just was out of body, right, flopping around, and just I'm like, setting a timer, 5 minutes. I'll be with you in a minute. Let me know if you're, when you're ready. Finally, you could just see his body starting to calm down, and I was kind of just distracted, just being there, kind of looking around. And next thing I notice, he's got his hands up and he's blowing on his hot cocoa. I said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I'm going to do my hot cocoa breaths. This calms me down." He would do his hot cocoa breaths. And sure enough, he
I
got
love
himself
that.
regulated and off he went.
The invisible coffee cup or cocoa cup. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
But what does that say about him and his own self-agency?
Exactly. Yeah, he knew his teacher had taught him some strategies and he had been working with that and using it, and he just needed to have the space to get into the part of his brain that helped him remember that, oh yeah, I need to do that. That will help me.
Well, let's talk about you personally. So we've talked, if you don't mind, and Nicole gave me a thumbs up earlier that this was okay that I asked this question. How has this work, SEL work, mindfulness work impacted you personally? And what have you noticed?
Well, it was a little bit of an act of self-preservation, to be quite honest, to begin with, because I became a mommy to a baby when I first started my first principal job. So my girl is now 3, and when she was born, I was like, I can't be that person that
Mm,
just ignores my family. I can't be that distracted parent. I want to give her the world. I've been giving other people's children the world for 20 years
mm,
now. It's time for me to give my own family the same, the same love. And I really started thinking about, well, how do I stay well at work? How do I model
mm,
leadership? How do I model mindful leadership? She's watching me, and the kids are at school are watching me. I have 640 of them, right? And so for me, it has been very important to take on some of the strategies that you shared with leaders about, I'll tell you, I bought this Aura ring, right? So I'm tracking all my biorhythms and
Oh
watching
yeah,
my
tell us
breath.
about that. Tell
So
us
I'm
about.
trying to
This
keep
is
my
sponsored by the Aura Ring. No, it's
exactly.
not.
So I shouldn't say that, but I am trying really hard to find out, like, how does my stress
Yeah.
cycle work during a day? Things happen so quickly as a principal, you don't pay attention, right? So I am stopping to pay attention. I watch my stress and I watch when it pings really high and how frequently, and what is it that I can do during the day to bring myself more into my parasympathetic nervous system so
Hmm.
that I'm able to
Hmm.
make thoughtful decisions for a student body of 650 kids
Yeah.
and 90 staff members. And so I have noticed that there's a couple things that will push my stress high, and that's multitasking and
Hmm.
just really not feeling like I can get everything done in a day, right? Just feeling like everything's stacking up, and I have so many things that are time sensitive to get done, and trying to figure out how to slow everything down.
Hmm.
So when you said, give yourself the gift of doing just this one thing, and then also the power hour that you talk about too, just like
Hmm.
sometimes you just need to shut yourself in the office and do a power hour, and you will get so much work accomplished. And my team and I regularly talk to each other about whether or not, I talk to my assistant principal, do you need a power hour? She'll give me a power hour. We'll cover for each other while we're working. And it just, the relief of feeling so productive and that you can complete tasks is also
Hmm.
just, it's very regulating, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
not only does the work get done for kids, it also then helps me feel better as a leader.
I love the awareness, the self-awareness that you are bringing to this role.
Mhm.
I love that. I think that's like one of your biggest skill sets is like, I'm not willing to give away my life for this. Right? I'm going to be a great principal. I'm also going to be a great person and a great mother and a great friend and a great partner. Like I want to enjoy it all. And I think too often we're fed this narrative that we have to basically give it all away
Right.
and then bye. I gave a decade to a community. And can you imagine if I wouldn't have cared for myself at all? That's just a decade of my life is gone. And so we have to bring ourselves to the table, and it's okay to do that. And we can still be great leaders with intention. So I love that story. All right, friend. Well, let's close with, let me ask you this question. What would you say to other principals out there that say, sounds great, I don't have time for SEL. I know it might be important, but I'm not really thinking it's that important. What would you say to them about that?
I'd say I believe that it's the single greatest investment you can make in yourself, in your school community, in your families. It's the gift that you can give to the next generation of children and the next generation of leaders. Also, to teach the skills that they need to be regulated, to be present, to be empathetic, to be to know how to be problem solvers and to monitor that, do that self-awareness. I don't think there's any other thing you could possibly do. And I believe that our scores are going to go up no matter what. I mean, our staff is regulated. We're all sitting in meetings thinking with our prefrontal cortex, right? We're not thinking in that reptile brain, trying to make rash decisions.
Yes.
So when you can make thoughtful decisions and move forward thoughtfully, that is the goal of leadership to me in my building, and helping to distribute the leadership among other people who are also being able to make very thoughtful and intentional decisions and model what healthy humans look like in the workplace, in society. So I would say it's your greatest investment. So
I totally agree. Like if you just do the juxtaposition of the meeting you were just describing there, where we are regulated adults, they feel they're a part of a community, and they're able to focus with their prefrontal, versus what you and I have both seen in other places where everybody's on their computer, the radios are blaring and going off. We're all trying to multitask, doing the best we can, but that's no way to be focused and to get work done. So just thinking about those two things, I just had that visual of seeing the split screen of both of those meetings.
yes,
So,
yeah.
well, kudos to you and the work you're doing there in Vancouver. You're doing some amazing things at your school, you and your team and your staff, and thank you for letting me be a part of the journey.
Thank you, Lana. We're doing it because of you.
Thank you. All right, Elena, bring us home. Come on back.
Hello. Hey, everyone. And I remember to unmute myself this time. Well, actually, before we get started, I think there's a few more questions that I kind of wanted to pop up a little bit.
Okay.
So I was going to say, wait on that.
I was putting my hat on.
Hold on. And Omar just typed for a second. Hold on. Here we go. Okay. There was a couple of really great comments that I wanted to pop up and make sure we could comment, answer on a little bit. Here we've got that SEL is really lacking in older levels as well. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I mean, let's say we're talking about high school. So we have a whole group of students who probably did not have any of this in elementary or middle school.
Yeah.
And so, absolutely. So they don't know how to regulate themselves, how to single task, about their emotions, how to express themselves verbally. And I will say, I'm excited to say in Portland Public, every high school now is offering a mindfulness class for its students. So the anxiety of our high school students is through the roof. So absolutely, it needs to be in our high schools. Yep.
Okay, well, let me see. There's a couple other comments I wanted to share. 1 second, please. Here we go. Yeah, here's another comment. Young children are coming to school delayed in many skills. SEL skills are one of those that they're missing. So that's true. We think about kids that have been coming to school. We also saw that a lot after the pandemic with delays, but we didn't really think about, that you automatically think about what are they losing academically? But we didn't think about what they were losing socially, which was
absolutely
huge.
Yeah. I actually heard, Elena, a second grade teacher say to me, emotionally, I feel like I have kindergartners now.
Yeah.
And so what are we going to do in education? Just pretend like that's not there, that we don't have to? That's where SEL can really step in and help with that social skill gap that many of our students have now.
Yep. Okay, and let me make sure I didn't miss anything. We had some other ones, but here we go. We had some great comments tonight. School. Okay, I'm just checking. Okay. Well, now with all these great comments and questions, I'm going to pick 2 winners tonight.
All right.
So now you can hide and get your.
Okay.
But so tonight we have a signed copy of her book, Unlocking SEL. That we will be giving away to 1 winner. And then also we have a one-on-one coaching session with Lana for one of our viewers tonight as well. So for our one-on-one session, I'm going to wait till I get Lana to pop. Are you going to wait? Am I going to get you pop back on?
No, I can pop back on.
There we go. Our 1-hour coaching session, we are going to have Shauna Fender. Here we go. Shauna Fender, you are the winner.
Hey, Shauna.
One-on-one coaching session. Shauna, if you can send me an email to contact@teachergoals.com. And that way I can then, let me hide that, connect you with Lana. And I'm going to put that in the chat real quick so we have for everyone. Okay.
All right.
And for our next winner, and I forgot, I didn't pop up who was picking our actual winner.
Yes.
I forgot you see the top of his head. Okay, for our second winner of our signed
Drum roll
of the book, and hold on, I had it in here. Let me find the person again. Here we go. The winner is, we have Joyce Langford. You are the winner.
Yay, Joyce.
Joyce, congratulations. Joyce, if you can email me at contact@teachergoals.com. Thank you, Omar.
Joyce, you're not in North Carolina and Charlotte, are you? And I'll just bring it over to your house and you can cook me dinner and I'll bring it on over.
Just hang out. You can just hang out. Yeah. Said, thank you so much.
All right.
And then and so then also I just wanted to say again to Joyce, make sure you email me at contact@teachergoals.com. And then I just wanted to talk a little bit before we bring everyone back up tonight to do a final celebration with us. But if you guys have not grabbed your copy of the book, you can actually grab it tonight and get the exclusive workbook. I'm going to put
Did we put the link? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm putting the, I think I actually just shared the wrong one. Hold on one second. Let me share the book one. Here is the link, guys. That one right there will get you the extra workbook. If you go there, grab your copy tonight. Save your order number code, put it in there, and you will get a free digital workbook as well.
A meaty workbook. Do not forget.
Yes. Okay. And actually, sorry, I'm going to show right here. So Annie here, she said where to find the book. I'm going to share it one more time. If you go to the unlockingsel.com/book, go to that website, and there's a link there to purchase the book. And then there's a link there to put your information in from purchasing that will then get you the free workbook. Okay. And then if you have any issues with that, you can email me again at contact@teachergoals.com, and I'll make sure to help you out. Okay. Well, so make sure you guys get your book tonight. Write a review if you've had a chance to look at it. We really, really, really appreciate reviews. They are the best thing you can do for us. And I'm going to bring everyone back up. Here we go for our final toast tonight. Let's make sure I got everybody. There we go.
Oh, look at us.
There we go.
Oh, I got to do a little screenshot of this group.
Yeah.
All right. And don't forget Quincy. Here he is. All right, friends. Here's a toast to everyone. Thank you for all your work and all your support. And thank you to our guest panels. And we have a special song to take us out. Hopefully it's going to work today. Here it comes.
Can you hear it? No?
All right. Raise your glass, everyone. Here's to making schools healthier and happier places for students and staff. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Love it. Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye, guys.
Bye.